Right. So here we are. It's another Wednesday. We generated weekly call. Let some people in here, get this thing going. All right. Here we go. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Right on. All right. Cool. Does anybody have any wins to share this week? Anything good happened with you or your agency over the last week?
What's up?
Jackson Stoddard with less hair.
Hey, Patrick Shannon.
Are you an
How you
adult
doing,
now?
sir? Huh?
Are you an adult now?
Somewhat.
You look very professional.
I appreciate it. I've really been working on it.
How are you doing?
Jackson had some wins.
I'm
Sure.
good, man. Who's that? Who else we got in here?
We got a lot of people on here. You got any wins, Jackson? Anything good happen in your business last week?
Collected a few $1,000s. That's about
good.
it. Yeah. Got some GMBs up. Things are getting verified again.
What is working for you with the GMBs? Because I know a lot of people are struggling with that.
So we've had a lot of suspensions recently. That's probably not the best news to hear, but we're actually able to get
dealing with
verified. We're getting postcards again. And things are starting to pick back up. We're actually getting on the maps. So that's pretty good to hear. I know of a couple people. I know Kirill. He's getting things out of pending.
What's kind of the key for the success that you guys are having to move things from out of suspended and out of pending?
So out of pending, I gotta check with some people and see what they're doing. But we're honestly, I'll just be straight up. We're forging documents. we're just editing documents and throwing stuff up.
This is being recorded live.
Great. Well,
Jackson, what type of documents?
About that. What
type of documents? Utility documents?
Yeah, utility bills. Just throw those up there.
Yeah, I tried that with a GMB yesterday and they still denied it. So I responded back asking why.
Okay. Yeah. Asking why, I just really hit him up and just say, hey, I'm trying to get something verified. This is kind of what my business relies on. And if they re-verify it, great. If not, I typically just re-verify a new one, get a new address, hit somebody else up on, a Facebook group. And I've been using a lot of friends' addresses really. And just reaching out to people on Facebook that I know that are in the cities that I'm trying to rank in. Yeah.
I mean, guys, it's a lot of the same stuff that we've been saying. I know that some of you guys are struggling with this and you're going to run into this where they're going to reject it. And it's really just a game of numbers, right? It's like, get your GMBs up there. Some of them are going to get rejected. Some of those rejected ones, whether it be suspensions or, stay in pending too long, some of those are going to go through when you talk to them enough, and some of them aren't. So the more you have, the better your chances are. So, if you send out 20 and only 10 arrive and 8 of them get suspended, now you got 2 GMBs, right? So, it's worth it. These GMBs are worth thousands of dollars a month once you get them ranking, right? So it's just the hoop that we have to jump through, So that's awesome, Jackson. We've seen similar results, where our stuff has got suspended. I don't think there's anything magic that we're doing to make them go live. It's just like we're just pretty relentless with it. I'm just like, keep on doing it. Just keep on going. Yep. You just got to get lucky once in each city, right? And then, if you get lucky a few times in one city, then all the better. Cool, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Anybody else have any other wins to share with us this week? Any fun stuff going on?
Yeah, Patrick, you could hear me, right?
Henry, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Oh, busy. I started implementing Eugene review, but instead of going for a local area, I've been doing it for a niche. So I've been getting a lot of interviews set up that way. I didn't realize how good of a prospecting strategy that was until now. They trust you after you're done with the interview. Then it's much easier to sell them on something. Because
right.
It's like, hey, you help them out by getting their business out there.
Yeah. So Henry, can you just run us through that process real quick? Because I know that most people probably know the Eugene review strategy, but can you just give us an overview of what that looks like and then the tweak that you put on it to make it kind of niche specific?
Sure. So how Eugene's strategy works, it's in the training, but how it so whatever local area you're in, it could be a different some area. You make a website out of it called like Dan originated in Eugene, Oregon, which is why it's called Eugene Review. So you make a website for it, and then you can contact any business owner in the area. It could be a restaurant owner, a store owner, and then you could reach out to them and you're saying like, hey, like this is like Henry Dan from Eugene Review and would like to cover your business with a story. Would you be interested? And if they say yes, they're like, oh, he's giving me free press. And then there's a script you follow too with certain questions on there where you can dive deep into the business. You can find out what their pain points are. And then after that interview, after they're done, you can sell them on what you do. And you can tell them it's like, hey, I have another division to their business where it's like, hey, we do marketing and SEO, and you guys can go from there. And then you develop a trusted contact as well too. And I tweaked it for a specific industry I wanted to go after. Like I want to go after the whole supply chain. So that's how I'm prospecting nowadays.
Okay. So you're building like a newspaper site, right? And you're showing up to them kind of like a reporter. So through this, you are able to kind of disarm them a little bit and have a pattern interrupt that doesn't seem like a marketer, right? So
yeah, that's what it is.
Through and you interview them. At some point in the interview, you kind of shift things over and say something like, hey, this doesn't fit for everyone, but just kind of after hearing about your business, we actually have another wing, a whole nother arm to our business. We don't just have this site that we run. We help other people attract more business to themselves. So that's kind of the gist of it, right, Henry?
Yep. And another thing too is like I developed a group as well too for that niche too. So it's all related to that. Whoever's in my group, I reach out to them, ask them if they want to be interviewed as well too. So and with those interviews too, it's like you can record them on Zoom. That piece of media can go on Facebook, it can go on YouTube, on the website. There's a lot of ways you could spin that content.
Excellent. Yeah. And I mean, I think anytime you're talking to local business owners, and you also, another benefit to this, right, is you kind of get to pick the people
that's exactly what it is.
Right. Right. So you're basically creating conversations with who you've decided prior to the conversation has the potential to be your ideal client. And then you're creating communication with them kind of in a way that is, it's non-confrontational, right? It's just like, let's have a conversation about your business. And it's not so much of like a sales conversation as it is like a profile of their business, right? Which people love to talk about themselves and their business.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. So you've had some luck with this and you've created some conversations, Henry?
Oh, tons. I had 2 conversations today. I got 2 tomorrow. I got 1 this Friday. And then I got ones that were set up a few weeks down the line because they were really busy. So it's all really good. I have a
sounds like you're taking some big action. So let's take it home, man.
Yeah, I think I found my niche too. I think for a while I was struggling with finding the niche and how to go about it. And then ultimately I found something that was pretty obscure. And I was like, hey, there's a lot.
Yeah. Do you want to share that with us so that we can all go into it as well?
Oh, no, I'm not sure. Not yet. Wait to hear the success stories and I'll tell about it.
Okay. All right, cool. Sounds good. I've got something prepared for you guys that I'm going to be launching into the group that I think is going to be useful. I had a few conversations. So, aside from doing these calls and working on the software and running my agency, I do a little bit of, I got a lot of friends that are in this industry. Like Jackson here's, a good buddy of mine. So a lot of times we'll jump on a call for an hour and kind of talk strategy. So I had a couple of those calls this week with a few different people. And it kind of occurred to me, like I just had like a realization. And this is somebody that has been in this industry for like 4 or 5 years, and they haven't really built up a big agency. And what they've been doing is they've been trying to build their legions on the side, and then they've been kind of doing what we do, but as a job, right? Where they don't have full ownership, they don't have full control. So not an SEO, but doing a lot of SEO stuff as a part of that job for other companies where they're not going to have ownership. And it kind of occurred to me through this conversation, a lot of people have sites. Like there's a few different mistakes that I think people make along the way. So one of them is to build a lot of sites. So this particular person has 70 sites built. 16 of them are rented. 54 are not rented. And he was lining up to have 100 sites built over the next year. Previous week, I had talked to somebody that had 100 sites built, none of them rented, and had this target of trying to get to 175 sites. So you guys, and then there's people that don't build sites. Like we saw that, Dave Matthews and his partner, they've been in this industry. Dave's been in it for 6 or 8 months or something, and his partner's been in it as long as me. And they only had 3 sites, which, like, I know life gets in the way, but it is important for us to kind of like identify our weakness and then come up with a plan of attack for that weakness. So I started thinking about it, and I started thinking, like, how can we make this into some rules, right? Like, how can we set some rules that can help us self-diagnose for where we are? So here's what I started thinking of. So if you have less than 25 sites, if I was in the shoes and I said, hey, I've got less than 25 sites, my goal would be to get to 25 sites, okay? If I get to that 25 sites and I have less than 50% of those sites rented, my focus is going to be, less than 60% was the number I was thinking. So have at least 60%. So that'd be 15. So you'd have 10 unrented, 15 rented. So that's going to help kind of drive you in the direction of where you go. If you are building sites and you're not putting anyone in them, you've got a problem. And building additional sites is not the solution. You need to start putting people in these. If these were houses that you owned, if you had 25 houses that you owned, that you had built, and they're sitting empty, or 10 of them are sitting empty, it's going to be a big deal to you. You're not going to let those houses sit empty. But for some reason, when we build these websites, it's not as painful for us to have them sit empty, right? Maybe because we're not paying a monthly mortgage to the same extent, but the opportunity cost of not having somebody in these is just as much. And I'll tell you, I own multiple houses, and it is very frustrating when they are empty, and I don't want them to sit empty at all. And I look at the money that I make from the legions that I build and the money that I make from the houses that I own. I make more money per site than the house. Like, I'll spend $300,000 to buy a house, right? And maybe I'm putting like somewhere between like 10 and 30% down, right? So it's going to be, $30,000 to $90,000 down. What am I getting from these houses? Sometimes we're getting $500 a month. That's ridiculous, right? I don't have a lot of legions that I'm making less than $500 a month. So look at how those sit empty and that opportunity cost. So I want you guys to kind of use this as a rule of thumb. If you have less than 25 sites, let's build to get 25 sites. If you have 25 sites or more, look at the percentage that you have that you're getting paid for. And that's going to help you determine. If you have 40% or more that are unrented with 25 sites, I would spend my time focusing on making sure those sites are ranking and then getting people to them. So kind of like assess yourself of, okay, my site is ranking, but I don't have a person, or I can't rent this out because it's not ranking. There's no reason for you to build a bunch of extra sites when you could be applying that same work to your first sites and get it to rank so that you can actually get some money coming in. It's going to be easier to rank your first 25 sites, and you're going to learn. Like if I was going to build 175 houses and I'm not going to have anyone live in it before they get in there, what if I make the same mistake 175 times? What if I find out the upstairs toilet doesn't work on 175 of these houses, right? So I need to go back and I need to fix it on one of these. So look, building is key, but you guys do this in chunks. Like, get them kind of in stages and move them down the tracks, right? So this kind of takes you to where I want to, what I have for you guys. I'm going to share this in the group. I've created the spreadsheet. We use this in my agency. Okay, so I kind of have some dummy information in this spreadsheet. I'm going to download this and put it into the group. Okay, there's different ways. We actually use this in Airtable, but it was just easier to. It's going to be easier to share an Excel sheet. And as I mentioned on a few calls previous, we're moving things from Airtable into Infinity. So this will be in Infinity. I'm going to share my screen with you guys and kind of show you this. I think this will be a good tool for helping you guys figure out where you are. Can you guys see my screen? Can you give me like a thumbs up or something?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, cool. All right, so what we have here is I've got 3 tabs in the sheets, and this is what we do when we're trying to look and analyze where our sites are. So we've got a lot of sites that aren't ranking. I think we have, or that don't have clients. And a lot of that is because they're not ranking or they're at some percentage of ranking, right? There's probably 75 to 80 sites that we built, and we put them into this, and then we evaluate it and we decide what is closest to popping. Let's start putting energy towards that one, okay? So that is part of what this is. All right, so what we have here is we have the website URL. So this is just what we're using, like what website is it, right? We have managers in our business. So the way it works in our agency is I have 3 managers on my team. Each one of them are responsible for the sites, and then they delegate to the other people on the team. So they'll delegate towards like getting backlinks or having content written, citations, reviews, all these different things that we're doing, more GMBs. So they're using this, and we're kind of looking at it to decide where we are. Okay, so that's just the manager name. That might not exist in your agency, so feel free to delete that. We set priorities in ours. So these go from 1 to 10, right? So our priority 1 means, hey, this is top priority. We need to make sure that this is moving. So we go through, and our managers will have different, like maybe they'll have 20 sites assigned to them. Maybe 4 or 5 of them are priority 1. Then there's like 4 or 5 that are priority 2, and so on. So when we put this into like Infinity or Airtable, you can group and sort and hide this stuff, and it's really easy to work with. Okay, so locations is the amount of GMBs that we have for this. So this is the criteria that we're using to try to decide whether, trying to decide where to put our effort. So 8 locations for this, that's a lot of locations. We don't have that in a lot. Our phase 2, I'm gonna get into what that is in a minute. The market, so this is Las Vegas. So we separate out the market from the city, okay? So what we mean by market, so like maybe the city is Henderson, Nevada, which is right next to Las Vegas, but it's part of the Las Vegas market, and we do that for filtering, right? If I was like, imagine Los Angeles, right? That's a huge city that has a lot of different sub-cities, and we may have different websites that are targeting those different sub-cities, but we can have them all kind of like grouped together when we use the market. So they'll all be in the Los Angeles market, but we'll have them listed off by city at another part within this. So live GMBs, so that's going to be pretty similar to what the locations are, but this will help us know like which ones are actually live. So if one goes down. GMB requests, so this is us like searching for new GMBs. We're sending out postcards, those are counting as requests. So this is our review count, so we can look at this. We have this other locations tab. This is going to make more sense on that tab, but that is kind of like the total of the reviews. So the way that we do it within Airtable and within Infinity, you can have stuff automatically totaling and using formulas. You can do it in Excel too, but you can have like different columns totaling and kind of have this thing be automated to some extent for you. So the TF and the CF is a trust flow and citation flow. So that's from Majestic. This is the free plugin, right? So I don't have a Majestic account, but I'm able to determine that by using this free plugin. So if you just search like Majestic Chrome extension, you can install that, and you have to do this like CAPTCHA thing to walk through, but you can get the trust flow and citation flow for any sites. So the DR is going to be from Ahrefs, right? So you're going to need an Ahrefs account for that. I know that you guys all don't have that. For those that do, this is how we use it, right? So the Ahrefs traffic. So let me just pull up Ahrefs, and I'll just show you this, what the numbers are that we're pulling here. Okay, so this is my Ahrefs account. Hang on one second. We'll go to Site Explorer, and then I'm going to go back over here real quick. I know that we pulled in some random website, so we'll just continue with this. Just give it 1 second. Ahrefs can run a little bit slow sometimes. All right, so I'm going to paste this in here, and I'll kind of show you the metrics of where we're pulling all this stuff. Okay, so this is not my site. I wish this were my site because it looks like the site is killing it, right? So this is the UR and the DR. So this is the strength of this page, and this is the strength of this domain. So these numbers go from 1 to 100 and they're logarithmic. So for those of you guys who don't know or didn't study math a lot, logarithmic means that there's varying differences as the number goes up. So the distance between 0 and 1 is less than the difference between 1 and 2. So when you start to get up here, these sites are really, this is a very strong site. This is a site, if you see this site in your local niche, don't go into this niche because these guys are killing it and you're going to have a really hard time, right? So 4961, this is the amount of traffic. So the way this traffic value works is they have a algorithm that will calculate based on the keywords that you're ranking over here. If you were to pay to rank for if you were to pay Google Ads to get whatever they calculate your traffic is based on ranking for those keywords organically, if you were to pay for those in Google Ads, it would cost you $142,000 a month, okay? So this is a ton of organic traffic for these people to have, right? So if we go back over here, that's an important number. So when we go through, we want to know, because this is basically saying how much would people be willing to spend for your organic traffic, right? So you can see like why that's an important number. So the live pages are the pages that are indexed. Or actually, I'm sorry. So the live pages are the pages that are created, and these are the pages that are indexed. So this helps us determine where, like how many of our pages are not indexed and what we can do about it. This is the day it was last updated, who updated it, and then our client. Okay, so any questions on this first page? No? Okay, cool. All right, let's look at the locations. So our locations are actually our GMB locations, right? So with our GMB locations, we're looking at different things. So we're going to actually have like, this is one specific location. So if I have 6 locations for the same site, then I'm going to have the same site listed here. And then I'm going to have the GMB name. So you have a separate category for that name. So this helps us kind of get organized with the naming strategy that we're going to use as well. So if I have like, if I'm in the garage door niche, maybe one of my GMBs is called garage door repair, and another one could be like, I don't know. Oh, I've never been in that niche. Overhead garage. I don't know. Some other variation of the keyword to help me have that diversity. Okay, so the state, that's pretty obvious. We're like, that's Nevada. So reviews, how many reviews are on this location? So as you look across your stuff and you start to see like 0s and 1s and stuff like that, this is pointing out where the deficiency is in your GMB, right? What do you need to do to move this thing? The status is live, the short URL. Okay, so if you guys don't know how to find that, if you go to google.com/maps, and then we can just search for like, this is A1 garage, right? A1 garage door repair services. I think that's what it was. No, this is not the right one because they had 841 reviews, but I would go here and I could click on this and then copy this. So it's just an easy way. I guess I could just copy this here. It's an easy way for us to get to this page, right? To their website. You can see there, that's the link right there to their GMB. Okay. That's the address. So we keep track of our addresses wherever our GMBs are. We track whether it's in our CRM, which is lead generated, right? The source that we got it. Okay. So this one came from Craigslist. Who did we send it to? Okay. The date that it was requested on. Now we're back to that market, right? Where we're tracking it. We've got our Gmail here for it. This is not real information. Okay. Not real password. All right. So this would be the email address, the password, the recovery phone number. And this is the phone number that is actually on the GMB. Okay. And then this is, you guys, so I've mentioned the strategy when you're setting up multiple GMBs before. Like you don't want them all going to your homepage, right? So you want, like for us, what we do is we look if whatever we think the most centralized location is, we're going to put that one towards our homepage, and we're going to put that one on like the keyword that we want to go after the most. Every additional one is going to go to a separate page within the same website, and the URL that we're going to put on that GMB is going to be a different URL, and this is that URL there. Okay. This is tracking whether we did schema data. This is tracking whether we have our GMB photos, YouTube citations. So I can talk more about that later. Whether the GMB is actually complete. So are all the boxes checked in everything that we do? How we ask questions? What is our citation count? Okay, so questions, let's go back to that real quick. Kind of skipped over that. So you can ask a question to a GMB, right? If I were to go here, I always have a hard time finding it, but there's a way to do it. Somewhere in here, there's a spot where you can pose a GMB question. So people on my team generally handle that, so I don't know where that is, but we want to make sure that we do that because we can load those questions up with keywords, and then we can respond to them with keywords as well to improve our ranking. Okay, what is our citation count? Any notes? Who the manager is? What the priority is? Our average heat map score, right? That's an important one. So if I've got like 10 keywords that I'm trying to rank for, and I have a 1.7 ranking for those 10 keywords, this GMB is going to really be producing. So I can keep track of that here, as well as heat map links. So that must be a new one because I don't know what we did there. And then when it was last updated. Okay, so I had someone on my team kind of use a version of this and prepare this for us. So I'm not exactly sure what that exactly means. And then this is phases. So I talked a little bit about this last week. The way we approach things is we have a site and we kind of move it down the tracks in phases, right? So when we were on this first one here, and there's a spot where it says phase 2, right? So let's talk about this is phase 2, this is phase 1. So we start off with phase 1. So the first goal is to get phase 1 done. Then we start focusing on phase 2 stuff. Then we start focusing on phase 3 stuff, right? So all of our websites can have a phase and we can know where they are. And then we can look at it, we can look at the deficiency, move it down the track. As this gets to phase 3, the chances of ranking are going to be really, really high, right? If we've made it to that point. A lot of times it's going to rank in phase 2. So we'll just talk about this. What is phase 1 for us? That means the home page is live. The contact page is live. We've got a privacy policy. Landing pages, we're not using these so much, but previously we would be building ads, and having the landing pages in place for those ads was a part of phase 1. GMB completed, GMB reviews and citations. Okay, so like we're going to order our reviews a lot of times off of people that give us the GMB in the first place. We're going to pay these people. So if we find someone on Craigslist, we'll say, hey, do you want another gig? Do you have additional friends? We'll give you like $10, $5, whatever for each review. I think it's better if you phrase it like, hey, if you get us 4 reviews, we'll send you $20, right? Then it's rather than just like, hey, we'll give you $5 for each one. And then whether the citations are ordered. So we're making sure all these boxes are checked. The managers know they have to complete phase 1. I can just say, hey, by Friday, phase 1 needs to be like done, right? So, getting the GMB set up is one of those things that's a question mark of how long it's going to take. But if I give them 3 weeks, then I'm expecting that to be done, right? So, and then we're moving on to phase 2. So having 10 pages indexed. So that doesn't mean just like 10 pages built. It's actually like Google has them indexed, right? So they're paying attention to the index rate. Pages that aren't indexed aren't really benefiting you so much, right? So having a DR of at least 5. So now we're going back over here. You can look at this DR as 61, right? So that's what that's about. That's from Ahrefs. Ahrefs organic traffic of $50, right? So that means we're starting to rank for some terms, right? We're starting to rank for terms that matter. This one can take a little while to get to. Phase 2 can take a while to get through. Citation flow, trust flow, 10 plus, right? So now we're back to the Majestic rating, at least 10 reviews, 30 indexed citations, okay? And then we're trying to get 10 organic leads per month. So organic as opposed to like, I'm paying for ads, right? So these are actually coming from the website ranking, okay? So now we're moving on to phase 3. We got 25 pages. So we're just like moving the numbers up. This doesn't have to be super complicated, right? Like you can go and do all this other stuff and like add in these things. But we found that these are the things that we think are most important for our website's ranking. When we get to this spot, like we're usually doing really well if these things are true. If we go into a tough market, we could have these things be true and not be ranking. Okay, that is going to, if you get in that situation, you need to look at your due diligence and say, what did I do here? Why is this the case? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this CSV and I'm going to put it as a file for all of you guys so that it's in the group and you guys can download it. Okay, does anybody have any questions about this process?
Yeah, Pat, I got one.
Sure. What's up, brother?
I mean, how much value do you place on that Ahrefs organic traffic value?
I put a lot on it because it's like, it's telling me if I don't have any organic traffic, then I'm not really ranking for anything that like the dollar value of the traffic, unless you're in a really weird niche where nobody's running Google ads, then the dollar of the value of your traffic will kind of like follow. It'll be like a shadow of how your site is ranking, right? And the value of the leads. So like, for instance, if I was ranking first for like plumbing Las Vegas, that's a term that people are spending tons of money on, and I'm going to have a ton of traffic associated with it because I'm ranking first organically for that. So this is organic ranking, though. It's not the maps, and the maps is the most important, but I do believe that just like this traffic, I think the maps follow your organic rankings, right? So there are exceptions.
I was just wondering because I have a couple that are like 0, but they're crushing it, and I'm getting paid a good amount for it. So
that happens, but usually if you're crushing it, then you won't have 0, right? So
well, a couple of them are crushing it, but I don't know. The GMB is 1 everywhere.
What I mean is, if you're crushing it with organic traffic value here, then you won't have 0, but you can have 0 and then like have a lot of leads coming in, right? Some of that stuff will be market dependent, but these are all just like parts of a tool. These are indicators, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go in to the doctor and they like just like take your heart rate, they can't determine if you're in good shape or not. Maybe you're just nervous right now and your heart's like racing. Maybe you sprinted to get there on time, right? So these are just all indicators. None of these are like rock solid, but I like to look at these and have numbers where I can try to identify deficiencies. If there's a problem where, one of our sites isn't producing, these are the things that I would go to and say, okay, how do I start moving these things? Let me come up with an attack plan so that I can go after this. Like, if my DR and UR are low, I probably don't have good enough backlinks, right? If I'm ranking really well, but no one's calling, maybe I'm in the wrong niche, or maybe I don't have any reviews, right? We've had it happen where we have like no reviews on a GMB and it seems like it's ranking really well, but no one's really calling. And then we start to get some reviews, and then calls start to come in a little bit more. People trust it, trust it more. So all this stuff, there's so many other variables that are affecting each one of these things. But if you can kind of look at them as a whole and just give you like a baseline, right? Give you a target, right? They're designed to try to help you identify the weaknesses, but they're not the end all be all. But I do put good amount of value in it. That's exactly why I wanted to mention it to you guys. Does that make sense? Make sense, Patrick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Does anybody have any other questions about this?
Yeah, that was solid gold, Patrick. Spencer's asking where you get citations from. Samantha's kind of answering in the chat as well.
Yeah, so, Patrick, are you using a VA or?
No, we use if you do a search for like citation sites, I don't know like what I don't know what freedom I have to answer that question with the relationship that we have to JK, being that JK sells citations. I want to make sure that I don't know.
Because I've used local citation services for citations for websites. Is the website citation the same as a GMB citation?
Yeah, so these citations that I'm talking about are the citations for GMBs.
Okay. So if a company does citations for websites, they more than likely do citations for GMBs. Is that correct?
I'm not 100% sure what a website citation is. I guess just listing your URL. I don't know what the difference of that between like a backlink and so I would say so. I mean, there's a ton of different providers out there that that do citations, right? Okay. And then what we did is we were paying for these services for a long time, and then we ended up like working out a deal because we were ordering so many citations. We worked out a deal with like a person, and now they do it for us, and they do it at a discounted rate. So before everyone asks for this person's information, I'm not going to share it. That's like they're almost like an employee for us now. Where but yeah, citations are important. You want to check the index rate. A lot of them aren't going to get indexed. There's things that you can do. I think gosh, you know, I wish I know that the people on our team, we've had meetings about this, and then we've come up with strategies on how we can get them indexed more. I'll share that with you guys. If you guys, I'll share that in the group. I don't know what it is off the top of my head because a lot of this stuff is being managed by my team at this point, right? It's too hard for me to remember all these different like tiny pieces here and there. It looks like some citation stuff is being shared there in the group or in the chat for you guys. So, you know, those are some ones that I recognize and I would recommend. I think we've used those in the past on our team. So I would check those out. That's a good recommendation.
Then people are asking for the link to this tracking.
I'm going to post this in the group. I'm going to upload this as a file in the group so that you guys can use this.
And then I had a file also, I just did a screenshot of a GMB where it indicates where to ask the question. And I was trying to drop it in the chat, but I can't do it on Zoom or Facebook. So maybe.
Can you direct me if I go here? Can you show me where to go?
Yeah, for sure.
Can you see my screen, Jeff?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I just looked up tree service Austin. And it's, if you go down a little bit, I'm not sure where it is on this interface. But it was, yeah, just scroll down on that listing. There you go. Yeah, I can never find it there either. But when I looked it up when I just did a Google search, then it came up in the other GMB view, and it was obvious where it was. I don't know if you want to do that.
There you go, right there.
Yeah. So then just click on, I clicked on good guys. Yeah, right there, right. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, guys. So I know a few of you have requested what I would do if I had a GMB that wasn't ranking. Okay. And I said I was going to put together a link to a video, and then one thing led to another, and that didn't happen. But let's talk about that now. So one of the strategies that I would use, say I'm trying to rank for tree service Austin, I could ask a question that says, hey, I am in Austin. Do you guys provide tree service to me in my area? So I'm getting the term tree service in Austin into the question. And then, so I have somebody ask that question from the local area. And then I respond as the business owner, like, yes, we've been providing tree service in Austin for a decade. We would love to help you. Give us a call, right? So like, that's one way that I would do it. Okay, let's get into lead generated, and let's actually look at some of the other strategies. Okay, so I'm going to go towards the heat map, and I am going to look at good old Bob's bear removal here, and we can see that they are crushing it. But let's flip the map. So to do that, for those of you guys who don't know, I think most people know, but I'll click on any number of these spots, and I can flip the map. So I can flip the map. That's a term we came up with that just means I'm going to move the map to a competitor's view. Okay, so this is a competitor's view. So now I can see it, the heat map, as if I had run it for them. I'm going to find someone who's maybe a little bit better than them. Let's check out Bear League. Let me just play with this a minute. Try these guys. Okay, this is what I'm looking for right here. Okay, so the map has 3 spots on it, right? That's what most of the time it's going to have our top 3. So the biggest difference in my mind is between 4 and 3, right? I think you're going to see a greater jump in calls when you go from 4 to 3 than when you go from 400 to 4, right? Like this is where once you get in there and you start to show up, people can see you. Most people aren't going to the second page. I can't remember what the percentage was, but I think it was less than 10% go to the second page to look at this stuff. So are the most bang for our buck is going to be where there's 4s, because we only have to move those one spot, right? So if we were to go and look at this, and I'm going to zoom in on this company right here where they're a 4. Okay, so you can see that there's this area called Myers, right? So what would I do if I were in this situation? So some of the strategies that I would take, we've already mentioned. I would ask a question. Hey, do you guys do bear removal in Myers? Yes, we've removed lots of bears from Myers. Those are some of the best bears in town. We'd be happy to remove them, right? Another thing is I could post a review that says, hey, I've got a house over here in Myers and I called this company for bear removal. They did a great job, right? So I'm building that relevance. I could make a photo on my website that says Bear Removal Myers. I could name that photo Bear Removal Myers and upload it into my GMB, right? I could, what else could I do? I could geotag my photo to this spot. I could build out pages on my website that talk about Myers, this neighborhood, right? I just want to build as much relevance. So when Google says, someone does a search on Google, this is what's happening, right? And it makes a lot of sense why this is what's happening. So someone does a search on Google, Google's looking at this like big database of everything and all these sites and saying, who is the most relevant for this search? So in their relevance, they're talking about the company that's the best quality. So that's why like reviews matter. That has the most information, right? So that's why the content matters. So let's build more relevance to these spots that we want to rank better for, right? So these are some of the strategies that I would do. And I think once you start applying these, you'll have more relevance than the competition in pretty short order. And that can really move this stuff. So I know that some of you guys have, maybe you've done this for a month or a couple months and like, hey, the dial's not really moving. That just happens sometimes. That doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It's taken us a year to rank for things, okay? So like, don't get discouraged and realize that the return on investment when this thing really starts to rank is just like out of control versus a lot of other pathways. So be patient with it. If it takes 3 months, if it takes 6 months, if it takes a year, like the thing that we have a site in Raleigh that took us a year to rank. For the last year, it's maintained that ranking from the first year. Over the last year, we've made $18,000 off that site and done nothing to it, right? So it's a very one-sided equation once you get it to that spot, right? So
that's what I was thinking, Patrick, when you were going through sort of that ratio between how many sites you have to how many you have rented out. And, you know, thinking like if you had that 25 and you get 60% of them rented, and then maybe you go and chunk up another 25 sites, those other ones that are kind of in the background, and they'll catch up eventually. And that's kind of the situation I'm in with Patrick now in his portfolio. It's like these things just pop up because there's so many of them that are kind of like those back runners that maybe weren't the big winners at the, you know, at the start are now starting to come online and start to produce. So that's a very powerful dynamic once you start getting up into the 50, 75, 100, 150 sites. You know, next thing you know, you have a site every other week that's like, whoa, I forgot all about that one. And now all of a sudden it's producing leads. Now all I have to do is maybe tweak it a little bit and sell it. So that becomes a very powerful proposition as you move forward. And like Lou mentioned in the chat that he has a 1 to 10 ratio or a 10 to 1 ratio. So I think he's got 10% of his sites, if I understand correctly, rented. I'm not sure what, I guess it's different for everybody depending on how you set it up, what your expenses were, but what is that percentage that you need to have to become profitable and to start making it make sense? I think that percentage can be pretty low if you do things right and don't get out of control with your spending. You can have a pretty low rented site percentage and still be profitable. And then all that other stuff starts coming up, bringing up the rear later on, and then you start really jamming. So that's kind of the way I've seen it.
Yeah, absolutely, Lou. And when that's the case, I mean, that's an indicator. Like, I don't know why it's not on here, but we have there may have been something that was filtered out, but we actually have on the websites one, we have something that I'm going to add it in now.
And I didn't ask Lou how many sites he has, so, but whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. It's like, he knows what to do, right? He needs to get some more sites rented.
Right. I mean, if you have 10 sites and one of them, then you'd be at that 10%, right? But if you have 100 sites, like, so it's such a small sample size, 1 out of 10, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, I would put a lot of focus towards getting to that 25 site marker and then really be focused on how many of your sites are rented out and decide from there. Like if you have 40, if you have more than 40% or 40% or more, somewhere around that, I would be putting almost all my time towards trying to get those sites rented out, because you're kind of in the worst spot, right? When you've done the work and you're getting no reward from it, you spent the time, you spent the money, and you're getting nothing. You'd be better off at that point having done nothing, right? So you want to get out of that spot and get over to the spot where you start to receive the reward. every month that goes by where you don't get the money from those sites, you're not getting that month back. That month is out of your life forever. You need to get to that point where that money is coming in for these sites as quickly as possible, because you have empty houses. Picture those sites as empty houses. You've gone and you've paid the construction crew to come out, build all the walls, put the carpet in, run all that stuff. You paid for that, but you have no tenant, right? And for those of you guys that are in phase 1 or you haven't moved on to phase 2, maybe your house isn't all the way built. Like, hey, I need to get a front door on this thing so that I can get a tenant in here, right? So like, I want you to have these connections that are intentionally painful for you. It's got to be painful enough to move, to make you move, right? If you've spent this time and you spent this money, like, look at this stuff. View these as houses that you've built. What are you going to do about it? Nobody's coming to save you. You have to be the one that takes control and moves this stuff down the tracks, right? Okay, so I see, Lou, it's 40 sites. My goal in one for months 1 to 6 were just to build. So now I'm there. Yeah, I see that, man. So it sounds like you've got 4 sites rented. I would get that now. So you need to, so what is that? That's going to be 16. You need to have 24 of these sites rented to get to that percentage of 60%, right? So that's, if I were you, and take it for what it's worth, that's just my 2 cents. If I were in your shoes, that's where my attention would be. I'd be like 24, that's my target, right? And for the other ones, the remaining 60, I'm not going to abandon those, right? The other 16 out of the 40, I'm going to go through, I'm going to put these things in this sheet, and I'm going to make my best guess by looking at these things, which ones are closest to popping, right? And then I'm going to be targeting those. And then I'm going to be moving the other ones that are not closest by like looking at my phases and saying, okay, this one's only in phase 1. This is in phase, like, what do I need to move? Where is my site weak, right? So what this is designed to do is to look at, just kind of like give you some quick metrics on where weaknesses and strengths are, right? So this is going to talk about how much content you have. This is, these next ones are going to be your backlink ones, right? This is some GMB stuff, right? And this is just kind of like an overview number that it's such an important number. We should pay attention to it, right? So like, you'll see that these things will kind of move together though. Like they're not all like directly related, but there's just correlations between all of them. So at what point should we order citations? I would say I order my citations as soon as the GMB is like verified in live, not like after it, like if it's going into pending and waiting and pending, I'm not doing it there. So we have been starting to experiment with doing the citations before we even order the GMB, because we noticed that, or we have a theory, I guess, and I think it's more than just our theory, right? It's something that's been talked around in the SEO world for a little while. It's like Google is more likely to make the GMB go live if there's evidence that this is a real business that exists. And those citations are evidence of that. Not all citations are created equal. Yelp is considered like a big citation, right? So it may be advantageous to set some of these up prior, but I'm not paying for like a big order of citations until that thing is actually like live and verified and on Google and showing up. And they're like, we're through that harassment game that seems to be a part of it, right? Okay, cool. So I see, Laurent, you've got 26 websites, only 1 rented, bringing $25 a month. Bad niche picking. This is exactly what I was talking about with, you learn as you do this. And if you had built 175 sites, you might not realize until later that these were bad niches. You need to go through this entire cycle and get all the pieces of it. And then you can look back on it and make decisions. If you, like, I'm all for trying to build things out, but you've got to do it with some caution, right? You don't want to build all these cars before you turn one of them on, right? And drive it around the block, right? So drive around the block, figure out how we can make it better, and then apply that to the additional sites, right? Okay, so Janeri, did you use the direct category when creating the GMB? I find when you use roofing, contractor, HVAC, or general, it's immediately suspended. I redid and HVAC GMB was suspended with a different category like water filter supplier. Immediately published. Yeah, so absolutely, that is the case. There is a correlation between how Google scrutinizes things, and this should go into your niche selection, right? So there's certain things that we know are going to be tough to get live, like roofing is going to be one of them, garage door repair, locksmith. Let's see what else we got. Mold, like that mold restoration niche. These are things that a lot of like lead generators have targeted, and it's like Google is aware of it, and it's not just lead generators. I think like with locksmith, there's just like this whole weird society of people that build 1 million sites all over the place, and then it's just a heavily scrutinized niche. So you need to think about that when you go into that. HVAC and roofing are tough ones. We have an HVAC contractor. It has been a nightmare to try to get one of them back. We finally got our GMB back. It was #1 ranking in Las Vegas for like AC repair for several years, and then we lost it. We found out that a competitor reported it, and it took us a long time to get it back, and now it's not ranking nearly like it was before.
Yeah. But it's only been a few days. We're keeping our fingers crossed.
Hopeful.
Yeah. The time and effort, and it'll re-rank.
What I have that was one of the biggest mistakes that I've made in this business, is trying to go into HVAC in Las Vegas. I did it because I found an awesome client. He's a great guy. He's great at what he does. He's on top of it. He's just a really good dude. Seems like the perfect situation, right? I've mentioned this before, I think on another call, but I want you guys to look for things like this. The problem with going in this HVAC first on its own, it's ultra competitive. There's HVAC companies everywhere. Las Vegas is one of the hottest places on earth. It's going to create even more competition. If you look at the Las Vegas surrounding area, it's like 2 million people. That's a lot of people. So now we've got a competitive niche in a big city. Next, Vegas is really hot in the summer and they have mild winters, right? That's a big problem for somebody trying to grow an air conditioning company, because it's feast or famine. We were giving him so many leads in the summer, but he couldn't hire full-time people because he can't promise them that he's going to have work for them in the winter, because there's just not as much demand. So let's say that it's smart when you replace your furnace to also replace your air conditioner. Kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, it's going to be like $6,000 to replace your air conditioner or your furnace, or $8,000 to do both, right? So my air conditioner they probably go out in similar time periods. So what a lot of people in Vegas are going to do is they're going to say, okay, well, what if I just got like an electric heater and I just throw it in my house, and then my air conditioner works good. That's what we really need here. So if I can just survive a couple weeks of like 40, 50 degree temperature with this, like, and not have to have this expense, then that's what they're going to do. So a lot of people make that decision in Las Vegas, which no matter how many leads we gave him this summer, unless we could give him furnace leads, he couldn't grow his business, right? And he can't pay us more unless he can grow his business. He can't get to all the jobs, right? So I didn't know that. Like, this is why it's necessary. This is why I say, like, before you niche down, get a couple clients, because that would have been a hard thing to detect, because I don't run an HVAC company in Las Vegas, right? So now if I was going back into that niche, I would make sure that they have multiple seasons, right? Like, for instance, Ohio, that's somewhere that it's going to be cold in the winter and hot in the summer, right? So that would be a much better climate for that type of niche. This isn't my rant is not about like HVAC. It's about like understanding the concepts of how these niches are going to be different in different markets, and the things that you don't know are not going to immediately be obvious, right? I learned the hard way. That was one of the hardest sites that it took us to rank, and then it's never been worth it. I think
you have to learn by hard knocks, though, a lot of times. But I think that's what Patrick meant, like, by not going 100 sites into some unknown niche, and then you find out that there's this issue, and all of a sudden you have a portfolio of stuff that you can't maximize the potential of, right? So that's one thing. There's a few questions here, Patrick. One of them on citations, that Nini is asking, how many citations before you get the GMB? Would you just say buy the lowest package? Would that be a smart thing to do?
I wouldn't buy a package before doing it. I would just do it myself, and I would just get some of the major ones.
Gotcha.
Like Yelp, and I don't know if they're like there's big citations is what they're called.
Samantha's dropping it in the chat right now.
Okay, there you go.
The main ones that you would I'll drop it into Facebook as well. So that's one thing. And then Spencer was asking about the, what were you asking about, Spencer? Geotagging.
Yeah, geotagging. Let's talk about that. So geotagging was something that I think like 6 months ago was on the top of the priority list to build into the system. And we've continuously deprioritized it because it's unknown. It's always been unknown, the value of this. For me, it's always been like I can think of like 5 or 6 things that I think are more important than geotagging the photos, but I'm also someone who likes to try to take every edge, obviously while staying ethical and in integrity. I like to take every edge I can to try to move this stuff. So how it used to be, I'll just kind of give you this history on this so you kind of make your own opinion on this. How it used to be is you would upload a photo into Google, you could download that photo back. When you uploaded it and downloaded it back, whatever the metadata for the photo, it would stay. That's no longer the case. So there's some theories that have been formed on this, that there's 2 kind of schools of thoughts, I think now, that exist for this geotagging photo. So one thought is you upload it with the geotag data, Google recognizes that, they pay attention to that, and then some change they've made on their end, when you're downloading it back, that data is cleansed off and they're still counting it. Other people are saying that, hey, they're probably not paying attention to it more, and they're just like knocking it out as soon as you upload it, so it has no value at all. And then, like, I don't know which one's true. And
I tend to think it's relevant. I think they're looking at it and they're just trying
right. So
that's my opinion.
Different schools of thought, right? I don't know the answer for that. I do believe that whether it is being used or not, it's not something that is important as other parts. So I just want to give you a caveat, and that's why we've deprioritized that within our system. I know that some of our competitors out there push the fact that you can do this with their software and it can be done for free. And I'll share one of the sites that we used to use. I think it's called EXIF Data. I think it's something like this.
There's another one called Geotagger or something. There's probably a bunch of them out there.
Yeah, this is the one that we used, and it worked as far as like geotagging the photos. So I will share this in the chat for you guys, and then on Facebook as well. So it takes a while to do this too. Okay, so I don't know, like bang for buck for me. Jeff, do you know if we're still doing this? I think so. Samantha, maybe you can pop in there. I know for me, it was just, I tried to do it on my own when I first got started in JK, and I was just like, wow, this is so tedious. I mean, yeah, brain damage central. It's like mind numbing to even think about. So if you're gonna do it, I would say definitely find somebody else to do it for you. Yeah, maybe that's something that you could have a VA do if you're gonna do it. Sam still does it. Okay. Yeah, I think the reward for it is minimal if it's out there. But okay, cool. Do we have any other questions? Are we caught up, Jeff? There were a couple of others here with Lou. Has anyone had a not pending and verified GM? Wow, this is confusing, Lou. Do you want to come on and ask that question? Maybe we. Is this in Facebook or? It's in Facebook, yeah. Small things. Yeah, maybe just roll with your next thought there, Patrick, and if these people want to pop on, maybe ask Lou. Give me 1 second. Let me set this Facebook up correctly. I can't see the questions on there. Give me 1 sec. Okay. Napoleon saying, heard in the group that geotagging is one of those small things that can be done to break into page 1 if all else has been tried, meaning content, backlinks. Yeah, it's a factor, right? So how important is it? Nobody really knows. It's just, there's so many variables that go into ranking in a specific niche, in a specific place, with your specific site, etc. Yeah, 100% agree. And some of the stuff is just comes down to feel, and it's just like my personal opinion. It's probably been shaped by the opinions of other people that I've listened to or heard from. So 100% it could be subject to error. I have no verifiable data that says like geotagging is going to push you over the edge, right? I've seen other things do that much better, right? So I'd like to, Lou, what's up, man?
Hey, am I on?
You're on.
Oh, shit. Hey, sorry about that. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Good. We're just trying to get some clarification on your question you were asking.
Yeah, so recently, like in the last 2 weeks, I've got 2 GMBs that are live. Like, you know, when you put them in lead generated, they have that little black thing that's like they're live, but they're still pending.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they went from that. They're now green verified. I can log into the GMB on the back end. It'll show it on maps. But if I'm like just looking in a browser for the name of that GMB, it does not populate.
Sounds like one of two things is going on. If it's too new, sometimes it takes a little while before it starts showing up. I know that you said it's been 2 weeks. Additionally, what happens sometimes is like a soft suspension where everything looks cool, but it's not. I think a lot of times we made a mistake in our agency of kind of writing off GMBs that just seemed like 6 months later we hadn't touched them and they like resurfaced. I would keep your eye on it and not give up on it and potentially throw more citations at it. Like that would probably be what I would do. I would be okay with that. Maybe just treat it like it's there. You know, maybe throw a couple reviews on there and see if it pops. It may be in this weird like no man's land spot and it may be gone. But like I said, like we had ones that were suspended, couldn't get them to come back. And then we're like doing research and we're like, that's our GMB. And now it's like disconnected from our Google account. So we can't log into it, but it still has our phone number. And now it's like ranking and we can't do much to it, but it's just like, you don't know what's going to happen with this stuff. So, you know, I don't know if that gives you any direction on it. I know that's not a solid answer, but that's the best that I have.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it's a recent Google thing because there's a few people like in JK that said they're having kind of the same thing. I mean, one of them's towing, which is obviously we know that's not a good niche, you know, but I already have a client, so I'm trying to get him more GMBs.
Right.
But
yeah, I've got a couple towing clients too, man. And you know, they've been there for a long time. It wouldn't be one I would go after, but like I accept the money on a monthly basis.
Yeah. And like talking with Jared Miller about this, I mean, something you can do is like do some citations before you go for the GMB, like with Bing and Yelp and some bigger DAs. I think that's helping, but you know, anyway, just something I had never seen before.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, Google's always shaking stuff up and some of this stuff has become more common than it used to be. And it will probably continue to move in that direction. Right. So if we look at things like over time, it seems like GMBs have gotten harder to get right over the last couple of years for, you know, like Dave Stowers has been in this for a while. Like he's probably seen it, like I've seen it change. And if this trend continues, it's going to get harder and harder, right? And we're just like, so what? Like this is the way it is. We're going to have to deal with it. And like if we think it's going to get harder in the future because Google is going to get better, then maybe we should take more action now, right? Like, right?
Without a doubt, GMB has to be spot on, or you will get carded basically, and you'll lose it. And it is tough to get back, like Patrick was saying. So, spot on every time.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. So we are over an hour. I want to answer more questions if those exist this week, and I want to introduce a new concept. So I'd like to have as a part of our weekly calls, or maybe every couple of weeks, depending on the response, is kind of like a spotlight session where somebody applies for this, or just like maybe send me a message during the week, or like maybe I can bring people up on a call. We could do one tonight if somebody is open to this. So spotlight session. This is how I want it to go. I want it to be about like a 10 to 15 minute time period where tell me about your business. let's come up with an attack plan for it. You're kind of like almost in the hot seat a little bit. I'm not gonna grill you and make you feel bad or anything, but let's try to identify why you're stuck. Let's come up with an attack plan. Because when you have to like verbalize it and say it to other people, a lot of times having other people look at it from the outside can really give you some insight, right? Like, so I've done it for a few people, like a few of my friends that I've just been having conversations with, like this person that today or yesterday that I was talking with, it's got 70 sites and only 16 of them rent, right? So that was kind of this, where are you with your business? What's going on? How many sites? Like where you're struggling, like this type of thing. And then let's come up with an attack plan, right? So it kind of goes hand in hand with the spreadsheet that we have here. So I know that I'm putting someone on the spot. Is there somebody right now that wants that spotlight session right now? And if not, then we can maybe start it next week, but I'm happy to jump into it.
Mike Thorpe is on Facebook. Mike, do you want to jump on the Zoom call and then you can come on and do that? I'm not sure if he has the capacity to do that at the moment, but he did pop off in the Facebook chat and said he's game. Shame me, he said. But
okay, Mike, if you want to jump on to leadgenerated.com/Zoom, you can come on here and let's find out what's going on in your business. I think each time we do this, so I've been, I think about this group a lot when we're not doing the calls and how I can try to provide more value to you guys. And this is one of the strategies I came up with is like, what would I want to do? I would want someone to look at my business for a few minutes, give me like some one-on-one coaching. And I think that will result in other people kind of, I think it's going to line up with each person we do. I think is going to line up with a certain percentage of people. And
he says he's at his son's swim meet right now, so probably not the best opportunity. But he's raising his hand for next week, so maybe we can put him on the schedule for next week.
Okay, Mike, just let us know if you are committed to being on the call next week. And I don't want to ask you a lot of questions prior to. I want it to be a discovery that kind of happens, and then we can have it happen in real time, right? So. All right.
If you want someone, Patrick, I can.
Okay. Yes, and we get to hear the cool French accent that I. All right. So I already know what's going on with your business to some extent, but let's talk. You've got 26 sites, right?
Yes.
And you've got one of them rented.
Yeah. So I did it the last 11 ones over the last month and a half. So basically 2 websites a week.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
I was having half of it a month and a half ago. And then for every week, then I was building 2 websites a week. So that's why now I'm getting to 26. Yeah.
Okay. So you said you built 2 sites a week for 11 weeks?
Yeah, basically.
So
not 11, the last month and a half.
Okay. So you have 22 sites that are a month and a half old or less.
More like 16 of them.
Okay. So that means you have 10 or 11 sites that are older than a month and a half, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we have this sheet here, right? That is going to help you figure out what phase you're in on these different sites. So what I would do if I were you is I would go through and I would fill this thing out and I would organize it by like, what website should I be targeting first, right? So I know that it sounds like you had an issue with niche selection, right? Where you chose some bad niches. And I imagine since you think they're bad niches, you have no qualms with sharing what these bad niches are.
Oh, I can definitely. So it's the first one that I picked was a carpet cleaning one.
Carpet cleaning.
In a city with 130,000 people.
Laurent, why is that a bad niche?
The ticket is too low.
Ticket's too low.
Ticket is very low. It's also very seasonal here in Canada. Okay. So meaning that the season is just starting right now. And it will last maybe up until something like October. There are some very big players in that market, okay, that do not only carpet cleaning, but a lot of other things. And they have a very strong brand. So it's very hard to compete with those guys. even though my website is very well ranked, it's ranking before those guys, there is a trust factor that get into that game. And then they are not trusting my website compared to big ones.
Right. So there's one other thing that I think makes this a bad niche. I 100% agree with you. Like, I have stuff in carpet cleaning. I don't like it at all. The difficulty to start a carpet cleaning company makes it a competitive. It's an easy thing. Like, you need a van, and then you could probably rent a vacuum cleaner from Home Depot and start a company, right? So the ease to start this business has made it really competitive. When you get a lot of leads coming in, they're not going to be worth a lot, right? So that's the problem that you're running into. So what I would do if I were in your shoes for those carpet cleaning sites is I have a, it wasn't, when I played poker for a living, I had this never die attitude. And a lot of times I would be down like in tournaments, and a lot of times I would be down to a few chips, and they called me the fruit fly because I would just not go away. Like, I would just like, and sometimes I would come back and win these tournaments, right? So that's the same mentality that I bring into these. Like, I'm not giving up on these carpet cleaning sites, but I'm just not putting a lot of my attention on it, right? So I would put most of your focus on these other ones, because you already know, like, if you're successful with this, you finally get it to rank and you finally get it to pop, it's not going to be worth much. Best case scenario, in my mind, you may be able to pull a couple $1,000s from it. That's kind of like the very upside of it. Whereas I think you could choose something, and probably within a few months, have something that's worth a few $1,000s. And maybe a few months is too aggressive. Maybe it's more 4 to 6 months. But I think so those ones, those carpet cleaning ones, kind of put them on the back burner, but don't forget about them, right? Maybe throw a review, a couple backlinks to them each month. Let's just keep on aging them in a way where they're building up steam over time, right? So let's not completely abandon them, but let's just like, maybe you throw like 2 backlinks, throw a couple reviews, maybe add like a page or something of content each month. So that way it's just kind of moving. Check the citations, keep your eye on it. See if you can build up steam on it, right? So you've got, how many of those carpet cleaning type sites do you have? Are those the 4?
No, I only got 1 of them. Okay. So
So
when I started,
3 outside of carpet cleaning that are more than a month and a half old, right?
yeah. So to get the number right, I have 10 of them that are maybe more than 4 months old, and then the rest of them are 1.5 months old, basically.
Okay, so you've got probably a lot of the 1.5 month ones are going to be in phase 1. So you could be kind of like looking at this and seeing like, how can we get here, right? So if like phase 1 for us is really about just getting the pieces in place and getting the site live, because we want the clock to start on the GMB, we want the clock to start on the website, right? Now we're like, after that's done, it's like, now let's make this website into something that has like the potential to rank, right? So I think for a lot of your sites, you should be moving from phase 1 to phase 2. How can we do that, right? Like, how can we move those sites? So that's going to be a combination of getting reviews, getting backlinks. I think, 3 GMBs is over here. So you can see as we go from phase 2 to phase 3, we're looking for a 3rd location for our GMBs. Like, we've got to have at least 3. So that's for us, that's phase 3, right? So you've got a game plan with this in mind of your sites, right? Your 22 sites. Your 22 sites that you've built that are like in that 4-month type age bracket and younger, where do they fit in with this, Laurent?
So they're mostly on phase 1.
Phase 1.
Yeah.
So
even though they have already a good TF and CF from Majestic because they have backlinks, I don't know about the DR and the Ahref organic traffic. They might not have a GMB. Okay.
So that's a glaring issue there. So that like phase 1, that's why we have it. This is like minimal stuff. So for you, if I were in your shoes, and I would be looking at this area here, and I'm going to find the ones that have location 0, right? And I'm going to make it a priority to get a GMB in each one of those, because a lot of the stuff that we're going to move on to, we can't even start. Like, we can't do reviews. We can't do citations until we can't calculate our heat map ranking, right? This, for me, even though it's in this column all the way up to the right, this is, for me, this is one of the most, I don't know where it went. Oh, it's under locations because it's location based, right? This is one of the most important things in my mind right here is the heat map. How well is my GMB ranking? Because if it's 1.7 for like 5 or 10 terms, this thing's probably kicking butt, man. There's probably leads coming in like crazy, right? These other things kind of move you in the direction for this to be possible, right? Where like our photos, our citations, this type of thing, right? So these are all connected, not 100% correlated, as Patrick pointed out, but they're connected and they're related, right? So I don't know, I haven't gone through all the feedback. Do you feel like this sheet and the strategy I'm trying to lay out for you gives you a game plan, Laurent?
Yeah, so I was trying to build something like that on my side, but yours is way more thorough, well thought, because we can obviously see that you went through that already and put a lot of brain power to that. So it will definitely help me.
Excellent.
I think one of the challenges that I'm facing, and I discussed that with you, is more on the sales side. So that's where I'm struggling. I'm not able to really monetize the work that I did. So
are they ranking?
Yeah, so some of them are ranking. Some of them are already producing leads. I'm just unable to close.
Yeah, it's we've talked about this, and I know the struggles that you can have on this on the other side of the fence, where I've spoke to you several times. You're someone in my mind that I think is very intelligent. You've got a lot of things in place, and it's hard to get to that other side of the fence. So you've got two things. You've got two choices here, or three choices. One is like, don't do anything and not be successful. I don't recommend that one. Number two is to hire a salesperson, which is like a fine option. Number three is my favorite option, which is learn how to be a salesperson. This is something that you can learn. Some people are going to have a harder time with it than others. For me, it came naturally, and I'm fortunate in that regard, but I've seen other people that didn't become very good salesmen, right? I think Ipe is one of those people. He's like, did a lot of sales and he got good at it. He studied it, he practiced it, going to like Dale Carnegie classes, doing this type of thing, like the communications, studying sales stuff. This is one of the most important skills I think that exist in business sales. And that's why I think option 3 is the best. Option 1 is not really an option. You need to choose option 2 or 3 for your business. Maybe you start out as option 2 so that you can get some of this stuff producing while you study option 3, and then you work towards it, right? Take notes, listen to yourself, like go through, there's sales courses that exist. As entrepreneurs, when we started this business, and then we got this like education on how to rank sites. Everything changed immediately, but no one really told us that. All of a sudden, we're not just like business owners, we're entrepreneurs. It's kind of like the guy who builds fences. Like, he works for a company for years and years, he's building fences. He's got really good at building the fences. And then he's like, I'm going to start my own company. Like, look at this. This guy's paying me $20 an hour. He's charging $100 an hour. And I'm the one doing all the work. So I'm going to start my own company. But then he all of a sudden he's an entrepreneur. He's not just like a fence builder. He's got to understand marketing and, business, accounting, all these different things. That's the same thing for every one of us, right? We have to understand a lot more than how to rank a site. I think that when you have the sites ranking, we're all better salespeople, right? This is the analogy I gave last week, trying to sell a Ferrari that doesn't exist versus one that's parked on the corner and you're standing there trying to sell it, right? So having those leads in your hand makes us all better salespeople, okay? So if you are someone that is struggling with the sales, like that would be my attack plan. It's like, for you, if I were in your shoes, what do I have to do? I want to look internally and say, what am I scared of? Where do I have my own personal weaknesses? What is limiting me? What's my limiting beliefs? Where did these come from? Maybe I had some bad experience before and I'm scared, or like every time I talk to you, it's always very pleasant. You're a likable person. You have to figure out a way to like get that over and like look introspectively if you want personal growth, and maybe use option 2 until you're ready for option 3. I think the longer term option 3 is like, it's killer to be able to be a good salesperson with things, because like, Laurent, are you married, Laurent?
Yeah, I have a spouse and I have 3 kids.
So at some point you had to sell your wife on, it's a good idea to go out on a date with you, right? And at some point you're going to have employees and you're going to have to sell them on your vision, right? You have to sell your kids on the fact that you're a good father, right? So it's easy with our wife and our kids once they get to know us and they can clearly see our kind of like our value system, and they're enrolled in those beliefs. But that's really what sales is about, is trying to have the person see the vision through your mind. You've got to be able to believe it, and you've got to be able to paint that picture for them. Like part of it's a storyteller, part of it's like just the ability to connect with someone. So you need to look internally and say, hey, where is the breakdown, and what would I do if I was advising somebody else? What would be the instructions, right? There's a way to do it. You have to be that entrepreneur and solve this problem and say, okay, this is the problem that's here. I've got to solve this, right?
Just to add on a little bit to what Patrick is saying, like I believe that my success at sales comes from confidence, right? So I have the confidence because I have the leads, right? I control the leads. I have, that brings me to confidence. And so there was an inflection point for me, because I was pretty close to where you are in a mindset, as far as like not believing in myself, as far as sales, not believing that I could do it. I'd never done it before. I hadn't proven to myself that I could do it. So there was a time not that long ago when that was my truth, right? But there was an inflection point where shit got real, and I had to bang the phone, right? And there's that inflection point will come when maybe you have these leads coming in and you're looking at your bank account and you're like, holy crap, like I have to make a move here. And hiring a salesperson, I can tell you, is not that easy. It's easier to make yourself into a salesperson than it is to hire another one, at least where you're at, right? So I would definitely follow Patrick's advice and see what is that internally for you? What does that look like? Is that just getting up and speaking in front of people? Is that, you know, for me, it was, I had some speaking skills, but it was really just the confidence of having the leads in my hand and knowing for sure that I can deliver what I'm promising and that it's going to make a huge difference in these people's lives. And once I knew that for real, and that's the reason I never became a good salesman in the past, because I never had the right team behind me. I never had the right product. I never had the right confidence or the belief in myself. You put all those together and you make the gumbo, and boom, you're a good salesperson. But there's no, it is magic, I believe. I think that some people get, yeah, there's plenty of sales courses and all that. I think some people get too wrapped up into continuing. You always want to up-level your skill set, but it's like, if you come to this place where I believe I am, where you just, like you've proven it to yourself, then it's like, I don't care if this person on the other end of the line is the right person, because I want to find the right person. It's not just, I want to make a sale. Like, I want to find the person that wants to change their life today. And I know that me and Patrick and the team can do that. So once I have that, it's all over. It's game over. I'll constantly be banging. I'm here all day long, just banging on people for all kinds of different niches and all kinds of different locations, because I believe in the product that we have. And I believe in myself that we can deliver it, and our team, right? So you put all that together, and it's so powerful. It's not something that you can always put down into, well, this is my step-by-step process, and the objections and all that stuff is important. But I think that for me, intuitively, I've come to a place where I don't have to break it down like that. It's like, sometimes I get flustered. They come at me with a question and I stammer, and I was on a call yesterday and I was like, I just show up and throw up. I'm puking all this stuff all over. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I know this sounds like erratic. It sounds crazy. And she's like, no, I said, I'm just so excited because I think I might've found the right person. And she's like, I get it. Like, yeah, send them over, like that kind of thing. Because they can feel the passion. They can feel the confidence that you know what you're talking about, no matter how it's coming out, right? So I think there's a lot to be said for the confidence of it overall.
Laurent, do you have any sites do you have any clients? I think you have one client, right? You have one, you said you had one.
Yeah.
Are you crushing it for this client?
I'm producing, when it's the season, I'm producing constant leads. Yes.
Is this making a big difference for his business or her business?
Is growing. So I started last year with that guy, and he grew by 10% his business. Okay, he's alone doing the business. So a carpet cleaner guy that had no barrier to entry, and so he bought a small device, portable device, and that's do that. So yes, I'm helping him. It's not a game changer yet for him. It might become in the future.
Yeah. So, you know, everything, I 100% agree with everything Jeff said. And one of the things that occurred to me when he was saying that is that we have a lot of people that we've talked to, and we've heard how what we have done has affected their business and their lives and their family lives in such a positive way that we come in with a tremendous amount of certainty and belief that closing the sale is in their best interest. It's going to cost them more money not to have our service than it will to have it. And they don't know that, and they're scared. And you know, it's kind of like this person is just like drank a glass of poison and they're a stranger. And I'm like, you drank poison. Here's the antidote. I have to save this person, right? That's what sales is for me. It's like, I'm going to make this person's business better. If I can talk to them, if I like, they don't know me, so they don't believe that they drank poison, right? But I know that they have, and I've got the antidote right here. I've just got to convince them to give it a try, right? When you get to that spot, this like desire to close the sale, and this like the fact that you're doing something that's in their best interest, like they start to feel that, they start to sense that, starts to come through. I know from talking to you, you're somebody that's very analytical. Like that's my read on you, like very like systematic, analytical, and sales can be that way, but it's also a little bit more of art and like dance. And it's a lot about just like understanding the person. Like you need, what happens when we talk, like we have ideas in our head, like there's ideas going on in my head right now. And then I transfer it and I choose these words, and a little bit is lost. And then the way I say it, a little bit more is lost. Then you hear it and more is lost. And then it goes like, it's just lost all the way, right? From like a large percentage is retained. So when someone is talking, like we need to make sure like zone in and super ultra focus on them, trying to understand what they are really saying and then address that. And I think that is the hardest thing with sales. People are getting nervous on the phone. They're not really listening. They're waiting to talk rather than just like listening and trying to like two humans. Like this person is running a business. They're doing their best in the world to look at all the opportunities that are out there and decide what they believe in, what they should go with. And that's kind of what this is like, how can we let them know like, hey, it's like, I understand, like, you know, just letting them be heard is a big part of this sale, like asking questions that show you are listening and taking them in the direction and letting them be heard. Like, man, I've been running this business for 2 years and I can never have enough work. And like, that sounds incredibly frustrating, man. It sounds like you've put a lot of your time, a lot of your effort to learn something very, very good at it, and to not be able to shine sounds like a very frustrating, painful process. And then just let them speak. Like you just like hear them and go back. There's a lot of books out there that teach you how to do this, like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. There's stuff in there about listening, active listening, right? There is Never Split the Difference. That guy, I can't remember his name right now. He really, really good. He was an FBI interrogator. He talks a lot about like understanding people. And then he's got a master class on it where he talks about mirroring. And so, you know, one of the strategies that he mentions is like, it's been a very frustrating time. And then like what he says is frustrating time. Yeah. Never Split the Difference. There it is. Chris Voss. Right. So Chris Voss, like he's got a master class where he talks about, I can't remember if it's called mirroring or if that's another one of it, but it's just kind of like, it's all listening exercises. And this is what he used to try to like, in hostage negotiation stuff, to like make the person feel heard. That's a lot of what sales is, right? These are just like people skills. If you can take this is what you need to do is you need to take that analytical brain of yours and apply it to how you can be good at this, right? Like, what is my strategy? Okay, I'm gonna read these books and I'm gonna measure my success here. And like, I'm gonna give myself a 1 to 10 rating each time. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna jump off here now. We've been on here for over an hour and a half, but I wanna share one last thought with you guys before we go. So I'm gonna share my screen. And this is a kind of thought that I have in my head all the time. These are stairs, right? So this is a very tall staircase. We can see that people are up at the top. People have made it there, okay? Maybe some of you guys view me as being up at the top of this, or maybe some of you view other people, doesn't matter. Like, we know that people have got to the top and we're down here, or maybe we're in the middle or somewhere up here. Everybody's top is a different spot, right? Some of the steps that go up here are broken, right? Some of them are going to be tough. So if we were to, let's just pretend that the bottom of the staircase is when we start out with our business, right? We're down here, and the top of the staircase is whatever goal we set. Maybe that's $50,000 a month in revenue. We'll call that. So some of these steps are going to look like building my site, okay? Or going through learning the skills, building my site. Okay, now it's like getting a GMB, right? And maybe this one is making a mistake in a niche. Some of these are going to feel like you got punched in the mouth, okay? They're not fun. That doesn't, like, if you look at this, all these steps need to be stepped on, right? So I took those, I got punched in the mouth and it sucked, but looking back on it, that was a step. I got to go from there to there and I'm one more step closer, right? So when you guys are frustrated and when you're going through this, that frustration is a part of the steps, right? When I was playing poker for a living, a lot of times I'd be playing really well and I would lose. And I would have like a really good hand and then some unlucky thing would happen. And I realized like this is why it's hard. One reason it's hard for people to play poker for a living is the mental pain and suffering and stress that you have to go through. And I kind of formed this visualization right here, where it was sometimes you got to take out the garbage, right? I'm going to get that out of the way. So I'm not going to lose this hand where I'm like a huge favorite for a lot of money that often. But now that I've done it that time, I don't have to do it again for a while. Probably it's out of the way. Right? I don't know how many times we don't know. The problem with this visualization that I think a lot of you guys have is we don't know how many steps there are. So you get up here and you think that this doesn't work, but you've taken a lot of steps, right? And for these steps aren't going to be the same for all of us. I didn't have to spend like maybe 2 or 3 steps learning sales. That was something that just came easy for me. Laurent, you've got a couple steps here that are sales. And there was a lot of personal development that had to happen for me to move my way up these steps. Okay. It was just different than sales. It was other stuff. There was like organization and like learning how to fire people and like, getting rid of clients, telling clients no. Like those things were hard for me. Like they may be easy for you guys, but they were hard for me. And that was a step for me. So I want you guys to think about this as you move through your business and realize that when things are bad and they're down, that's a step. Okay, that's all it is. Anticipate it. We know that it's coming. Let's get ready for it. When it comes, we'll just say, hey, this is a part of it. This sucks, but I'm going to get through this. And then at some point, it's not going to suck. And that was a step that I took. Okay, so there's people up at the top. They got there by going through these same steps that you guys can too. So I just want to leave you guys with that thought. We got Mike. If Mike is up for it, I don't know if we got his okay for the spotlight next week, but I'd love to have somebody each week do this like Laurent did. Hopefully the conversation with Laurent has helped other people. Laurent, if there's parts that I haven't answered that you want more of this game plan, man, just send me a message and I'll work with you on that a little bit. Let's come up with strategies on how we can get through this together, right? Like you've got this whole group of people. There's other salespeople in here, right? You can use them as part 2 for a little while, but I think the most important thing is not necessarily growing our business. For me, it's like, how can I evolve as a person And that sales and communication ability is a huge part of any business that you run in life. And, you know, it's something that has helped our business be a lot more successful. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Thank you, everyone. I wish you guys have a awesome week, and we'll talk soon. And hit me up with your questions in the group. Hopefully you guys can share some wins with us at the beginning of the call next week. All right, take care, guys.
Spreadsheet's going to be dropped in the group as well.
We'll drop that spreadsheet in there.
All right.
Good stuff tonight. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, take care, my friends.